in the silence of ancient sands, where the desert stretches like an endless ocean of golden dust, a shadow begins to take form. The soul, newly detached from its fragile vessel, finds itself standing before a horizon that is neither day nor night. The air is thick, shimmering as though time itself has melted into molten amber. Ahead lies the path inscribed in secret texts, whispered by priests in dark chambers, painted in ink that was meant not for the living but for those who dared to enter the afterlife. It is the path through 12 gates, each one a trial, each one a threshold to a realm more unfathomable than the last. The first sensation is weightlessness, a drifting movement as if the body no longer obeys the laws of earth. Around, rivers of shadow coil like serpents, their currents pulling toward an obsidian arch that glimmers with hieroglyphs, alive with faint green fire. The hieroglyphs do not sit still. They twist and shift, rewriting themselves with every glance, as if mocking the futility of comprehension. The first gate waits, patient and eternal, yet something unspoken lingers in the air, a presence that measures the courage of the traveler without words. Passing closer, the desert dissolves into silence. A vast corridor of stone emerges, columns taller than mountains carved with forms of jackal-headed sentinels and winged serpents with eyes of copper flame. The columns seem alive, not carved but grown, as though they are the fossilized bones of gods themselves. The walls breathe faintly, an exhalation that carries the scent of resin and ash. Each breath of this corridor hints at judgment, and though the soul is weightless, there is an invisible heaviness pressing against it, a gravity of fate that no mortal body could withstand. At the threshold, the gate does not open with force or command. Instead, it waits for surrender. As the traveler yields, the arch elongates, stretching into infinity, and the passage swallows everything with a soundless pull. Beyond, darkness unfolds, not emptiness, but a thick tapestry of shifting shapes, each one half-formed, each one collapsing back into void before the mind can identify it. Eyes blink within the blackness, too many to count, and each gaze feels like a blade sliding against thought itself. The silence is deceptive. Beneath it hums a vibration like distant thunder trapped behind stone. The first realm reveals itself gradually, not with clarity but with suggestion. A vast lake glows faintly, black waters reflecting no sky, no stars, only the faint glimmer of the soul itself. Shapes drift beneath the surface, elongated limbs, fragments of forgotten beings, serpentine bodies that curl and vanish as if teasing the edge of perception. From the far shore rises a figure carved of shadow, faceless yet immense, its outline flickering as though stitched from the fragments of nightmares. It does not move, yet its presence coils around every thought, commanding without speech that the journey has only begun. The soul drifts onward, compelled by forces older than time. The ground beneath is not ground at all, but shifting sand that bleeds into glass, each step leaving behind a footprint that glows faintly before collapsing into sparks. Somewhere unseen, a current pulls forward, guiding toward the second horizon, where another arch rises faintly in the distance. The air thickens, the silence deepens, and the sense of being observed never ceases. The first gate has been crossed, though the soul does not know how. The trial is not survival of the body, but endurance of perception, of holding form against the currents that wish to dissolve it into oblivion. Yet, there is no relief in this realization. Ahead, the shadows stir, whispering of the 11 gates yet to come, each one darker, stranger, more impossible than the last. The second gate rises not as stone, nor as metal, but as a living barrier of flame suspended in the void. It burns without heat, its tongues of light moving in slow, serpentine arcs, glowing with colors no mortal eye has ever named. At first glance, the fire seems impenetrable, a wall of living memory that devours whatever dares to touch it. Yet the longer the soul gazes, the more the flames appear like veils of translucent silk, shifting to reveal fragments hidden within their depths. Faces emerge in the fire, ancient kings, forgotten slaves, wanderers who never reached this far, their eyes hollow, their mouths frozen in shapes of prayers that were never answered. The soul drifts closer, pulled by the unseen current that allows no retreat. The fire trembles, and within its light lies a labyrinth of paths twisting through illusion. Each flicker of flame suggests a corridor, but each corridor leads to a different vision. A burial procession of gold masked priests chanting without voices, a field of statues half buried in endless dunes, each one resembling the traveler's own form, a black river frozen mid-flow, with fish suspended like shards of crystal within its surface. Each vision lures, each demands attention, yet the soul must not lose itself in these reflections, for within distraction lies disintegration. Crossing the fire is not a matter of movement, but of surrendering perception. The soul passes through not by force, but by dissolving into the rhythm of the flames, letting them consume the edges of memory until nothing remains but the center of being. For a moment, there is only brightness, a white void humming with vibrations that erase the sense of time. Then, abruptly, the flames vanish, leaving only silence and the faint outline of a colossal cavern. The cavern stretches endlessly, its ceiling lost in blackness, its walls carved with hieroglyphs that pulse faintly with veins of liquid gold. The carvings shift when observed too long, their meaning slipping away like water through clenched hands. On the ground, rivers of mercury flow, glowing with pale silver light, illuminating grotesque statues lining the path. These figures do not resemble gods nor men, but something between elongated limbs, hollow chests, faces where no features belong. Each one leans forward slightly, as though listening for the faintest movement of the intruder who dares walk their corridor. The soul advances, every step an echo that multiplies infinitely, bouncing through the cavern as if thousands of unseen entities walk in unison. The mercury rivers whisper, their currents carrying voices of the past, fragments of incantations, curses, laments, all overlapping until they form a single incomprehensible hymn. It is a hymn of remembrance and warning, and though no words can be distinguished, the weight of it presses like an invisible hand against the chest. From the depths of the cavern rises a structure, an altar of obsidian shards suspended in mid-air, rotating slowly as though tethered to an unseen axis. Upon its surface glimmers an object that seems both jewel and wound, a sphere of scarlet light throbbing like a heart. The soul approaches without will, drawn closer until the sphere expands into vision, filling every sense, bleeding into thought. In its glow are visions, pyramids collapsing beneath waves, stars falling from constellations, the serpent, Apophis, swallowing the Sunday. Each vision flickers only for a heartbeat, yet the residue lingers, echoing with dread that is impossible to shake. Then the cavern shifts. The statues that lined the path are gone, replaced by towering pillars of bone rising out of black sand. The air grows heavy, thick with a metallic taste, and above, the ceiling opens to reveal not sky but a sea of eyes suspended in darkness, blinking in chaotic rhythm. Each eye reflects a different version of the soul, fractured into endless possibilities. A child, an elder, a king, a beggar, all watching each other in infinite loops. The sensation is unbearable, as if identity itself is being stretched across the fabric of eternity. At the far end, the second gate collapses into itself, folding into a pinpoint of light that drifts away into the distance. The soul follows, unable to resist. As the cavern dissolves into shadow, only one truth remains. Each gate strips away something hidden, something the living once clung to. The path ahead is not simply survival. It is dismemberment of all that was known. And now, 10 gates still wait, each darker, each more consuming, each less forgiving than the last. The third gate appears as a horizon of silence, not built of stone or fire, but woven from shadow itself. It does not stand upright. Instead, it spreads across the ground like a vast scar, a line etched into reality. To cross, it means to step into a rift where light and sound are swallowed whole. The soul hovers at its edge, sensing a gravity that is neither pull nor push, but a dissolution of direction itself. The scar widens with every passing heartbeat, revealing an abyss without depth, a mouth of darkness where even thought feels muffled. As the traveler yields, the scar consumes everything. Vision collapses. There is no path, no horizon, only a realm where form is unstable, where shapes bloom and vanish in a single breath. Fragments of landscapes shimmer like mirages, a staircase ascending into a blood-red sky, a forest of stone trees dripping with liquid gold, a sea frozen in the moment of storm, waves suspended mid-crash. None of these images endure. Each is torn apart by an unseen wind before recognition can settle. Within this void floats a structure, impossible in design. A cube of transparent crystal rotates slowly, but within its walls lies an entire city of light avenues, temples, towers constructed from threads of flame. The city hums with a low resonance, a vibration that seeps into the soul's essence, shaking loose memories long buried. Images surface unbidden, forgotten faces, fragmented joys, small betrayals, moments of pain once thought extinguished. The cube does not speak, yet its hum forces confrontation, each memory displayed as though etched into fire. The soul is reminded that to pass forward, one must be stripped of weight, even the weight of memory. Drifting closer, the city shifts violently. Its towers collapse inward, folding upon themselves until they become a singular, blinding spiral of light. The spiral elongates, stretching across the void, forming a bridge that guides forward. Yet beneath the bridge, endless silhouettes writhe, figures clawing upward with limbs of smoke, their faces hollow, their gestures desperate. These are not guardians, nor enemies, but remnant souls who faltered, unable to cross the third gate. Their presence radiates hunger, an aching need to be remembered. Each outstretched hand pulls faintly, as though begging the traveler to remain among them. The soul presses forward. The bridge undulates, a serpent of light slithering across the abyss. With every step, the spiral hum shifts, deepening, vibrating the core of being until the sensation is nearly unbearable. At its climax, the hum fractures into silence so profound it feels like suffocation. Then, without warning, the void erupts in sound, an orchestra of tones layered upon tones, thousands of bells ringing at once, harmonies that twist perception until the mind cannot tell where the self ends and the sound begins. Out of this sonic storm rises the figure of a colossal serpent, its body coiling infinitely through the void. Scales glimmer like molten bronze, each scale inscribed with a language not meant for human comprehension. The serpent does not move to attack. It merely watches, its gaze vast enough to encompass every thought. Its breath vibrates with the resonance of creation and destruction, a rhythm older than stars. To face it is to face inevitability. Yet as the gaze lingers, the serpent bows its head, withdrawing into the abyss, leaving behind only the echo of its presence. The spiral bridge shatters, collapsing into motes of fading light. The abyss closes, folding upon itself like a dream ending too soon. The scar of the third gate seals behind, leaving no trace of the passage. The soul emerges into a corridor of shifting stone, its walls moving like muscles, pulsing with veins of light. The air tastes of iron and incense, heavy with expectation. The third gate has been passed, but not without cost. Something intangible has been stripped away, a fragment of memory, a portion of identity. Ahead, faint in the distance, another glow waits, promising a new threshold. The fourth gate begins to stir, already aware of the traveler's approach. The fourth gate emerges not as a singular doorway, but as an expanse of mirrors stretching into infinity. Each mirror is tall as a tower, framed with gold so ancient it has turned black with time. Yet the glass within is fluid, rippling like water disturbed by unseen winds. The soul drifts into this forest of reflections, and for the first time, it does not see itself clearly. Each mirror presents not a faithful image, but distortions. A body draped in royal linen, a warrior soaked in blood, a child holding nothing but sand. Some mirrors reflect a hollow silhouette, nothing but absence where presence should be. The path is impossible to discern. Every step multiplies the reflections, bending directions until the corridor becomes a labyrinth. The air is saturated with whispers, voices spilling from the mirrors themselves. They speak in overlapping tones, accusations, praises, fears, none of which belong to the present traveler. They are echoes of possible lives, fragments of what might have been if choices had splintered differently. Each whisper demands attention, pulling at the core of the soul, urging it to pause and examine its own phantom futures. But lingering is a danger. The mirrors bend closer, their surfaces bulging outward as though they hungered to swallow the soul. Within the ripples appear hands of glass, stretching outward, reaching. When touched, they leave no wound, but instead drain sensation, stealing fragments of identity with every brush. The traveler presses forward, though the path bends endlessly. It is then that the realization dawns. The mirrors cannot be outmaneuvered. They must be endured. To move forward, one must ignore the cacophony of infinite selves and surrender to the uncertainty of being. As this acceptance forms, one mirror shatters violently, the sound echoing like thunder across the endless hall. From its broken surface pours not shards, but liquid light, cascading downward in silver streams that carve a path through the labyrinth. The soul follows, guided by the torrent, slipping between fractured panels until the maze collapses into a singular chamber. Here the reflections are gone, the chamber is circular, vast, its ceiling disappearing into smoke. At its center rises a column of stone carved with faces stacked atop one another, each visage twisting in agony or ecstasy. The column rotates slowly, exuding a soundless hum that vibrates through the bones of thought itself. Around it, 12 smaller pillars glow faintly, each aligned with constellations that shimmer faintly above, though no sky is visible. The column emits a sudden pulse. With it, visions flood the senses, visions not of memory but of judgment, scenes of cruelty, compassion, greed, sacrifice, each flashing like lightning. The soul does not control these images. They are summoned, weighed, and then dispersed. The fourth gate is not a passage of strength, nor a trial of endurance, but an unveiling. Here, the core being is laid bare, stripped of disguises, witnessed by forces unseen. When the visions fade, silence returns, heavier than before. The central column splits open, revealing a hollow interior filled with light so dense it appears solid. The chamber tilts, its floor dissolving, and the soul is drawn downward into the column's core. Within, the light twists, reshaping into a narrow corridor of stone that extends endlessly forward. Its walls bleed with shifting hieroglyphs, glowing faintly before fading into obscurity. Each glyph pulses like a heartbeat, as though the very script of existence has been carved into living flesh. The corridor breathes, and with each breath, the soul is pushed forward. The sensation is neither fall nor flight, but a drifting immersion, as though sinking into a dream that no longer belongs to the self. At its end, faint but undeniable, a glow swells, brighter and harsher than any yet seen. The fourth gate is behind, sealed forever, and ahead lies the threshold to another realm, a place where fire and silence are entwined. The journey continues, but already the soul feels thinner, stretched across too many visions, stripped of too many certainties. 11 gates remain, but the path has begun to fracture perception. Each step forward feels like walking deeper into a labyrinth, not of stone but of the mind itself. The fifth gate rises from a horizon of ash, The ground beneath the soul darkens into volcanic stone, cracked and glowing with veins of molten fire that pulse like arteries beneath skin. The air thickens with smoke that carries no scent yet clings to perception, blurring edges of thought, making each moment feel as though it dissolves into the next. Above, the sky is neither night nor day but a turbulent dome of swirling embers, fragments of dying stars drifting aimlessly before dissolving into black dust. In the distance, the gate itself begins to take form. It is not an arch nor a door, but a colossal mouth carved into the side of a mountain of basalt. Teeth of jagged obsidian line its edges, and from its depths radiates a dull crimson glow, pulsing rhythmically like the beat of an enormous heart. With each pulse, the ground trembles faintly, and the molten veins beneath the traveler's steps flare brighter. The mouth is alive, waiting, measuring, preparing to swallow all who dare approach. The soul drifts closer, but this time the path is not straight. The landscape warps, folding in upon itself, each step bending space so that forward becomes circular. The horizon stretches and contracts, mountains shrinking to pebbles before exploding into vast cliffs again. It is a maze not of walls, but of perception, a realm where direction loses meaning. Somewhere within this distortion echoes a low rumble, a sound like stone grinding against stone, endless and suffocating. Shadows flicker at the edges of vision. They are not creatures, but fragments of the traveler itself, pieces split apart and given form by the instability of the realm. Some appear as towering giants cloaked in flame, others as frail remnants that stumble and crawl across the broken earth. Each shadow mirrors an aspect of being strength, weakness, fear, ambition, yet all of them are hollow, lifeless shells repeating meaningless gestures in the ash. To gaze too long upon them is to risk scattering entirely, becoming another fragment left wandering in this fiery wasteland. The mouth of the mountain roars open. From within spills a gale of heated darkness, not flame but a suffocating void that devours sound. The crimson glow intensifies, flickering like the heartbeat of something immense hidden within. As the soul enters, the walls close slightly, the jagged obsidian teeth vibrating with a hum so deep it rattles through essence itself. This is no mere gate, it is a living threshold, a consuming spirit that tests not willpower, but cohesion. Inside, the tunnel spirals downward. The walls bleed liquid fire that flows upward instead of down, defying gravity. The path curves endlessly, like descending into the throat of an endless beast. Strange sigils burn across the stone, their glow alive, pulsating with the rhythm of breathing lungs. With each turn, the air thickens, becoming harder to move through, as though invisible hands press against the traveler, pushing back, daring it to collapse. Deeper still, the spiral opens into a chamber where the fire pools into a vast lake of molten gold. The surface bubbles with faces that appear and vanish, each contorted in silent screams. The lake reflects nothing of the chamber, only the memories of those who failed. The soul feels the pull of the molten surface, a magnetic drag, urging it downward into dissolution. The trial is clear: to cross without yielding, without letting the fire consume the fragments already weakened by the journey. The only way forward is to walk across the surface. With each step, the fire ripples, swallowing the outline of the traveler's form, tugging at its essence. Voices rise from beneath the molten waves, familiar and haunting, speaking in tones that echo long-forgotten choices. Each step becomes heavier, slower, as if the fire seeks to rewrite the soul into its liquid archive. Yet somehow, by surrendering fear and refusing to grasp at these voices, the traveler drifts across. At the far end, the lake solidifies into a platform of cool gold, and beyond it, the tunnel narrows into another arch. The crimson glow fades as the living gate closes behind, sealing itself with a soundless pulse. The trial is endured, but the air ahead is colder now, emptier, a vacuum that feels unnatural, After the burning chaos of the fifth gate, the silence is deeper than before, thick enough to weigh upon thought. The path extends forward into shadow, where the next threshold waits unseen, promising not fire nor reflection, but something stranger still, something that cannot be endured by strength alone. The sixth gate is not seen at first, it is heard. From the silence ahead comes a resonance so low it cannot be called sound, a vibration that trembles through the marrow of thought itself. Each pulse rattles the essence of the soul, like an invisible drumbeat marking the rhythm of existence. As the traveler drifts forward, the darkness begins to thin, and in its place, a field of pillars emerges, thousands of them, stretching endlessly in all directions, each carved of black stone polished to a mirror's sheen. These pillars hum faintly, harmonizing with the deeper resonance that shakes the ground. Their surfaces reflect nothing, not the soul, not the surrounding void, only a distortion that shifts like liquid shadow. The effect is disorienting, as if the traveler is moving through a hall where reality itself has been fractured into countless overlapping echoes. Each step multiplies the hum, weaving into a chorus that is not music, not language, but something older, something felt in the core rather than understood in the mind. At the center of this field rises the gate itself, though calling it a gate is insufficient. It is an immense monolith, blacker than the pillars, wider than mountains, rising so high that its top dissolves into nothingness. No arch, no door, only a single vertical seam glowing faintly with silver light. The seam flickers, never steady, like a heartbeat struggling to remain. The traveler approaches, and the hum grows louder until it is unbearable, not heard by ears, but experienced by every fragment of being. The monolith begins to shift. Its surface ripples like water, disturbed by unseen hands. From the ripples emerge shapes, half-formed figures, neither human nor divine, pulling themselves forward before collapsing back into the stone. Their outlines linger, carved momentarily before vanishing into shadow once more. They do not speak, but their presence carries weight, as if each failed figure were a remnant of those who attempted to pass and fell into dissolution. To move closer is to enter a storm of perception. The hum becomes layered with voices, thousands upon thousands, each speaking a fragment of truth or falsehood. Some phrases sting like poison, "You were never whole." Others soothe with dangerous comfort. "Rest now, the journey is finished." Each voice pulls in a different direction, not physically but mentally, tearing thought into 1,000 conflicting paths. The soul resists, not by struggle but by stillness. It lets the storm pass through without answering, without clinging. Slowly, the seam of silver widens, cracking open the surface of the monolith. From within pours a light so pale it appears almost gray, a color drained of warmth or life. The light stretches forward, enveloping everything until the pillars vanish, the ground dissolves, and there's only emptiness filled with endless silver glow. In this realm there is no up or down, no horizon, only drifting. Shapes form in the glow, colossal hands reaching across infinity. Eyes as large as suns blinking slowly. Mouths without faces breathing winds that erode perception. Each apparition is immense, incomprehensible, and yet intangible, fading the moment focus is placed upon it. The silver realm is a test of identity, to remain coherent, to hold on to the fragile thread of self while immersed in forces vast enough to erase individuality. Time loses meaning here. Minutes or centuries may pass. The traveler senses fragments unraveling, memories loosening, thoughts dispersing like smoke into the silver tide. Yet there is endurance, not of will but of surrender. By yielding without dissolving, by floating without resistance, the soul remains intact. Slowly, the glow begins to dim, condensing once more into a single beam of silver. The monolith closes behind, sealing its storm within. The sixth gate has been crossed. What remains is silence again, but not the silence of peace. It is the silence of anticipation, of a deeper abyss yet to come. Ahead, faint and distant, flickers a glow unlike any before. Not fire, not shadow, not reflection, but something alive, pulsating, calling. The seventh gate waits. The seventh gate reveals itself as a pulse on the horizon, a throbbing sphere of crimson light suspended above an endless plain of black sand. The sand moves like liquid, dunes shifting soundlessly beneath an invisible wind, forming and collapsing with each breath of the sphere. The soul drifts toward it, feeling the air grow dense, as though every particle carries weight. The closer the traveler comes, the stronger the sensation of being drawn into something immense, as if gravity itself has shifted to revolve around this living core. When the sphere finally expands into clarity, it is no simple light. It is an orb made of countless veins, each one glowing faintly, spreading outward like roots of fire across the plain. The veins pulse in rhythm, a heartbeat not of flesh but of essence, and every pulse ripples through the sand, creating waves that crash silently against invisible shores. The sphere is alive, and its awareness is unmistakable. The soul is seen, measured, and held in a gaze that has no eyes yet perceives everything. The seventh gate is not opened, it inhales. With a single pulse, the orb draws the traveler into its glow, dissolving the black plain in an instant. The world becomes a cavern of veins stretching endlessly in all directions, glowing like rivers of molten blood. The walls are translucent, and beyond them shift shapes too vast to describe. Silhouettes of serpents twisting around invisible stars, shadows of colossal figures dragging chains that dissolve into infinity. These are not guardians, not gods, but echoes of forces beyond comprehension, reflections of creation's undercurrent. The veins throb with soundless rhythm, and within each pulse is a memory not belonging to the soul. Glimpses flicker across perception, the building of the first temple, chants rising under a desert sky, knives slicing into sacrificial offerings, eyes lifted in trembling devotion. These visions come not as stories, but as sensations imprinted in the marrow of thought. The soul feels them, lives them, before they vanish into the hum of the veins. At the center of this pulsating labyrinth rises a stairway of bone, spiraling upward into darkness. The steps are slick, not with blood, but with a translucent substance that glows faintly, illuminating grotesque carvings etched into each bone. The carvings shift with every glance, sometimes hieroglyphs, sometimes faces screaming, sometimes nothing at all. The soul ascends, pulled by a current that cannot be resisted. Each step feels heavier, though weight does not belong to this form. It is the heaviness of memory, the burden of what has been lost in the passage through the gates. The stairway ends at a platform suspended in void. Here, the orb itself reappears, larger than ever, its surface alive with swirling patterns that resemble both storms and eyes. From its center emerges a figure, not solid but woven from threads of crimson light. It stands tall, without face, without form, and yet radiates an authority that crushes thought into silence. It raises no hand, speaks no word, but its presence presses inward like an avalanche. The soul feels itself stretched thin, pulled toward dissolution, tested not by challenge, but by endurance of presence. The figure drifts closer, its glow suffocating, forcing every fragment of self into sharp relief. This is the trial of the seventh gate, to withstand being seen entirely, without veil, without deception. The orb burns into every layer, illuminating hidden fears, unspoken desires, unacknowledged truths. Nothing remains concealed, and yet survival lies in not breaking under the weight of such exposure. For an eternity or an instant, the figure lingers. Then it withdraws, collapsing back into the orb, which pulses once more. The veins retract, the cavern dissolves, and the sand returns silent, black, shifting as before. The orb fades, leaving only a faint shimmer on the horizon, a memory that will never vanish. The soul has passed the seventh gate, yet something inside feels thinner, less whole, as though too much has been stripped away. Ahead, the desert stretches again, but faintly. Far in the distance, another shape stirs, a gate of shadows that moves as if breathing. The path continues, deeper into the labyrinth of afterlife. The eighth gate does not stand still. From afar, it appears as a shifting wall of darkness, but as the soul approaches, it becomes clear that the gate is alive, its surface rising and falling like the chest of a sleeping giant. The shadows ripple outward in slow waves, exhaling mists that crawl across the ground like liquid smoke. Each mist curls into forms, hands, eyes, fractured faces that dissipate before becoming whole. The air here feels heavy, almost liquid, and every movement carries resistance, as though the traveler wades through unseen waters. When the soul nears the threshold, the shadows open, parting like a mouth. The passage within is a corridor, carved not of stone nor fire, but of breathing flesh. Its walls quiver faintly, pulsing with veins of black light, and each pulse radiates a low groan that reverberates through the marrow of thought. The corridor contracts and expands, as though swallowing the traveler whole, and every step forward feels like being digested by something older than memory. Deeper inside, the air thickens with echoes, not voices, but the fragments of sound, the rattling of chains, the whisper of prayers spoken in desperation, the hollow rhythm of footsteps that never reach their end. These echoes layer into a symphony of unease, surrounding the soul with reminders of all those who came before and never returned. The walls pulse faster, veins glowing brighter, until the corridor opens into a chamber vast enough to house a forgotten world. The chamber is circular, its ceiling lost in a swirling storm of black mist that drips downward in slow, viscous drops. On the ground, rivers of shadow flow, carving intricate patterns that shift endlessly, resembling maps of cities long destroyed. The rivers converge at the center, forming a pool as dark as the void, its surface rippling though no wind disturbs it. From this pool rises a column of shifting forms, never consistent, sometimes a serpent, sometimes a pillar of fire, sometimes a faceless giant cloaked in wings. The form flickers with each heartbeat, a constant reminder that the truth of this place cannot be fixed, only endured. The trial of the eighth gate is revealed slowly. As the soul gazes upon the shifting figure, fragments of its own essence are mirrored in the transformations. One moment, the figure takes on the outline of the traveler's past self, then mutates into shapes that reflect possible futures, some glorious, some horrific, all equally unreal yet hauntingly plausible. Each vision tempts belief, offering the illusion of certainty in a realm where none exists. The danger is clear. To cling to any of these forms is to be devoured, absorbed into the endless cycle of shifting illusions. The soul remains still, allowing the forms to pass without attachment. The figure trembles, contorts, then collapses back into the pool of shadow, dissolving into ripples that radiate outward until the entire chamber quakes. The rivers of shadow surge violently, their currents pulling at the traveler with invisible claws. The pool expands, engulfing the chamber, until there is no floor, no ceiling, only an ocean of blackness stretching without end. From beneath the surface rise countless arms, skeletal and skeletal no longer, their bones wrapped in flesh that drips like wax. They reach upward, not to harm but to grasp, to pull anything solid into their tide of endless drowning. The soul drifts above them, feeling the pull grow stronger, the temptation to descend and surrender overwhelming. Yet by focusing not on the grasping hands but on the faint horizon of light above, the traveler resists the current. The ocean recoils suddenly, collapsing inward upon itself. The chamber reforms, solid ground returning beneath, though the shadows linger like stains that will never fade. The air clears, the breathing walls still, and a faint arch of pale light forms at the far edge. The eighth gate closes behind, sealing its illusions within. The soul has survived again, but not unchanged. The journey has stripped away layers of certainty, each gate eroding a piece of identity. Ahead lies only more shadow, and somewhere in that shadow, The ninth gate waits, whispering already of trials that will fracture even the faintest remnants of stability. The ninth gate is unlike all that came before, for it does not reveal itself with shape or light, but with absence. The path ahead narrows into a corridor of pale stone, walls smooth and seamless, leading toward what appears to be nothing, an emptiness so profound it feels heavier than any structure of iron or granite. This is a gate of negation, a threshold defined not by what is present but by what is missing. The soul moves closer, sensing that even the act of thought grows weaker here, as though every idea is pulled into silence before it can take form. As the traveler steps forward, the world unravels. The stone corridor dissolves into dust, the ground vanishes, and all that remains is a vast expanse of white void. There is no horizon, no depth, no up or down. It is not light but the absence of shadow, a blinding neutrality that erases boundaries. The soul drifts in this blankness, but with each moment, fragments of memory peel away. Names vanish first, then faces, then the subtle threads of identity. Soon there is nothing left but a faint awareness, fragile as a candle flame in a storm. Yet the void is not empty. Shapes form faintly at the edges of perception, geometries impossible to name, shifting between lines, spheres, and spirals that expand and collapse endlessly. These are not beings, but concepts given temporary form, fragments of pure order flickering in and out of existence. They radiate no malice, no intent, but their presence is suffocating in its perfection. To be near them is to feel the weight of being unfinished, incomplete, a fragile imperfection in a universe that tolerates no flaw. The soul struggles, not against the void, but against erasure. Each thought feels like it may be the last, each flicker of memory a final fragment before dissolution. The ninth gate tests not endurance of pain, nor confrontation with fear, but the ability to remain in existence when existence itself is rejected. To persist without anchor, without name, without memory. This is the essence of survival here. Time folds in strange ways within the void. Perhaps centuries pass, perhaps only a single heartbeat. Eventually, from the whiteness, a faint crack appears, stretching upward and downward, a fracture in perfection. The crack glows with black light, darker than shadow, a wound in the fabric of blankness. It widens slowly, releasing a sound that is not sound, but the shattering of silence itself. The soul drifts toward it, drawn as if by inevitability. Beyond the fracture lies a chamber unlike any before. It is immense, with walls made of translucent crystal, each wall holding within it countless figures frozen in stillness. They are not statues, but souls, preserved in perfect silence, eyes wide as if caught in their final moment of realization. Their forms shimmer faintly, as though they are not entirely solid, suspended between being and nothingness. The chamber is a mausoleum of forgotten identities, a graveyard of those who could not hold themselves together. The traveler moves between them, and though the figures do not speak, their presence presses inward. Each silent face reflects a possibility of what the traveler might become. Hollow, unfinished, erased. The pressure grows heavier with every step, a demand to yield, to join the frozen congregation. Yet the soul resists, focusing on the faint shimmer of movement at the chamber's far end. There, the crystal wall bends inward, forming an arch of deep shadow. The ninth gate closes behind with no sound, no final gesture, only a sudden collapse of whiteness into darkness. The silence remains, but now it is a silence laced with dread, a silence that promises the trials ahead will not merely test endurance, they will dismantle whatever remains. The 10th gate stirs faintly in the distance, waiting like a storm held just beyond the horizon. The 10th gate appears as a storm on the horizon. Unlike the silent void of the ninth, this one announces itself with sound, an endless roar that grows louder with each step. The path beneath the soul cracks and trembles, as if reality itself resists what lies ahead. In the distance, swirling masses of black clouds churn violently, threaded with veins of violet lightning that strike downward into invisible depths. The storm expands endlessly, devouring the sky, the ground, and the very sense of direction. It is less a barrier and more a living maelstrom, a wound tearing through existence. The traveler approaches, pulled into the storm's orbit. The roar becomes unbearable, but it is not mere noise. Within the thunder are voices, millions of them, layered upon one another, screaming, pleading, laughing, chanting. The voices overlap in chaotic symphony, each one fighting to be heard, yet none distinct. It is the chorus of every soul that reached this far and was consumed, their cries woven into the fabric of the storm. To listen too long is to lose oneself among them, to forget which voice belongs to the self. When the traveler enters, the storm swallows everything. Lightning cracks across the void, illuminating fragments of structures torn from forgotten worlds, temples shattered into dust, towers crumbling midair, stairways twisting into nothing. The wind carries shards of stone, fragments of bone, and echoes of rituals long abandoned. Each flash of violet reveals a different landscape, never stable, always collapsing. The soul drifts, pulled through the chaos like a leaf in a river too vast to resist. In the heart of the storm, a vortex spins an eye of darkness surrounded by lightning. The vortex stretches upward and downward without end, a spiral of shadow devouring itself. The traveler is drawn closer, and with each rotation the pressure grows, crushing thought into fragments. Memories flicker and vanish, replaced by illusions, a throne room of golden light, a battlefield of broken spears, a garden of stars blooming like flowers. Each vision shatters in an instant, torn apart by the storm before comprehension can take root. The trial of the 10th gate is disorientation. There is no ground, no path, only the spiral pull of the storm demanding surrender. The soul's form begins to distort, stretching and fracturing like glass under strain. Limbs appear and vanish, faces multiply and dissolve until identity becomes a shifting blur. The danger is not destruction, but dispersion, being scattered across the storm, reduced to 1,000 meaningless fragments. Amidst the chaos, a single constant emerges, a pillar of light rising from the center of the vortex. Unlike the violent lightning, this light is steady, pale, and unyielding. It pierces upward into the clouds, anchoring the storm to something beyond sight. The soul focuses on it, though each glance is nearly torn away by the currents. To survive here is not to resist the storm, but to tether oneself to the anchor of that light. With effort beyond effort, the traveler drifts toward the pillar. The storm howls louder, its winds clawing, its lightning striking closer, but the light remains steady. Finally, the soul touches its edge, and instantly the chaos falls silent. The vortex collapses inward, the clouds vanish, and the thunder fades into nothing. The world reforms, reshaped into a corridor of stone illuminated by the faint glow of the pillar. The 10th gate has been crossed, but the silence that follows is heavier than before. The journey has stripped away more than memory or certainty. It has begun to unravel identity itself. The soul feels thinner, stretched to the point of breaking. Ahead, faint and distant, glimmers another threshold. The 11th gate waits, and its presence is more terrifying than any storm. It is not chaos that lies ahead, but something colder, more deliberate, and far less forgiving. The 11th gate does not roar or blaze, it waits in silence, colder than all that came before. The path ahead narrows into a corridor of obsidian polished to perfection, its surface so flawless, it reflects not the traveler but emptiness itself. The walls rise higher than sight, closing inward as though carved by a hand that wished to squeeze all existence into a single line. The air is brittle, sharp as glass, and with each step the silence deepens until even thought seems to echo too loudly. At the end of this corridor stands the gate, two immense slabs of black stone, fused seamlessly at their edges, with only the faintest line of silver between them. Unlike the chaotic storm of the 10th gate, this threshold radiates control. Every grain of dust, every fragment of shadow, every breath of air feels measured, catalogued, weighed. The soul senses judgment before even moving closer. As the traveler approaches, the slabs part soundlessly, revealing a chamber of geometric perfection. The floor is a vast grid of white tiles, each etched with patterns that shift when looked at too closely, spirals folding into squares, triangles melting into circles, endless recursion. The ceiling is invisible, swallowed by darkness, but from that void descend beams of pale light, each one striking the grid with surgical precision. The chamber feels less like a place and more like a mechanism, a machine designed not to punish but to calculate. The soul drifts into the grid, and immediately the trial begins. The beams of light shift, scanning every movement, dissecting every fragment of identity. For the first time, the traveler feels its form dissected into symbols, as if reduced to equations inscribed upon the floor. The patterns beneath rearrange themselves with every step, recalculating, as though the chamber is rewriting the soul into a formula. The danger here is annihilation, not through violence, but through abstraction, becoming nothing more than a number in an endless computation. Shapes rise from the tiles, sculpted from pure light. They take the form of judges, faceless figures tall as pillars, their bodies wrapped in robes of shadow that ripple without wind. They do not move, do not speak, yet their presence crushes the chamber with authority. They stand in a circle around the traveler, their hands raised slightly, palms outward, radiating judgment. No voice is heard, but the verdict is felt, each action weighed, every hidden thought exposed. Visions begin to manifest across the tiles. Deeds long forgotten, choices once ignored, moments both glorious and shameful. They rise like holograms, flickering and vanishing as quickly as they appear. The soul is forced to witness its own reflection in countless lifetimes, stripped of excuse or disguise. This is not temptation nor fear, it is truth laid bare, as cold and merciless as the stone itself. The trial is unbearable not for its cruelty, but for its precision. Nothing is exaggerated, nothing concealed. Each failure is displayed without distortion, each triumph without embellishment. To survive is not to deny these truths, but to accept them without fracturing. And so the soul endures, not by fighting, but by yielding to the weight of judgment, acknowledging both shadow and light as parts of the same whole. When the acceptance settles, the judges dissolve into beams of light, sinking back into the tiles. The grid pulses once, the patterns aligning perfectly for the first time, and the slabs of stone open at the far end. The chamber collapses into darkness, and the silence deepens once again. The soul emerges thinner, yet still whole. 11 gates are behind, each one erasing, reshaping, and consuming. Only one threshold remains, the 12th, the final passage. Its presence can already be felt, a distant gravity pulling everything toward it. There is no mistaking the truth. The last gate is not merely a trial, but the culmination of all trials, the place where the journey either ends in dissolution or transforms into something beyond comprehension. The 12th gate does not reveal itself immediately. The path leading to it is longer than any before, a corridor that seems endless, stretching through shadow and silence alike. The air grows heavier with each step, thick as liquid, pressing against the traveler until every movement feels like wading through eternity. Time here is meaningless. The corridor is not measured by distance but by endurance. Each moment an erosion of certainty, a reminder that something immense waits at the end. At last the corridor opens into a plain unlike any realm encountered before. The ground is cracked marble veined with rivers of black fire, each vein glowing faintly, pulsing as though it carries not heat but memory itself. Above stretches a sky of absolute stillness, no stars, no sun, no void. It is an expanse of blankness that presses downward with invisible weight. This silence is different from the void of the 9th gate. This silence feels final, conclusive, as if nothing beyond it can exist. In the distance stands the 12th gate. It towers higher than mountains, a pair of colossal doors carved from material no eye can name. Their surfaces shimmer, reflecting not the soul, not the plane, but fragments of something beyond, glimpses of golden fields that vanish as soon as they appear, shadows of cities floating in the heavens, rivers of light bending across unknown horizons. The doors pulse faintly, as if alive, each beat resonating deep within the traveler's core. This is not simply a gate, it is an ending. The approach is grueling. With every step closer, the ground fractures further, rivers of black fire splitting wider, spitting sparks that rise into the air and vanish without sound. The weight pressing downward intensifies, not physical but existential, as though the traveler carries the entirety of its past across its shoulders. The silence thickens until it becomes unbearable, a silence that drowns thought itself. Even memory struggles to hold shape here, unraveling thread by thread. At the base of the doors, the soul halts. The surface of the 12th gate ripples faintly, displaying visions that flicker and collapse. A golden sun rising over eternal fields. A chasm where countless souls scream into nothingness. A throne of stars surrounded by shadows that bow eternally. The gate shows not truth but possibility, fragments of what might lie beyond. Each vision tempts belief, but none remains stable. The final trial is not endurance of pain, nor judgment of deeds, but confrontation with the unknown. The doors begin to move. Slowly, silently, they part just enough to release a stream of radiance unlike any light before. It is not warm, not cold, but absolute, piercing every fragment of the traveler's essence. The glow fills the plain, erasing the rivers of fire, dissolving the cracked marble, silencing even silence itself. Within the glow, all distinction begins to fade. The soul feels itself unravel, not as destruction but as release, as though every barrier between self and infinity is being dissolved. There is no fear now, only the edge of dissolution. The 12th gate does not force passage. It waits, open and endless, offering a choice: to remain fragmented within the echoes of the past gates, or to step forward into whatever lies beyond, surrendering completely to the unknown. The traveler drifts closer. The glow intensifies, becoming everything, filling every shadow, every thought, every fragment of being. The threshold is crossed, not with sound, not with movement, but with surrender. The 12th gate consumes all. And yet, beyond dissolution, something stirs. Not destruction, not erasure, but transformation in existence that no longer clings to shape or memory, a presence that stretches into eternity. What lies beyond is not revealed. It cannot be described. It can only be entered. The 12th gate closes silently behind. The journey through the 12 passages of the afterlife is complete, but the story does not end. It begins anew, somewhere beyond comprehension, in realms that no living tongue has ever named. Beyond the 12th gate, there is no corridor, no chamber, no ground beneath to carry form. There is only immersion. The soul drifts in a sea of light, though the word light fails to capture its essence. It is not brightness, nor warmth, nor color. It is pure awareness, a field of perception without edge or shadow. Here the self is both everything and nothing, stretched across an expanse that has no horizon. At first there is peace, a serenity deeper than any silence known before. Every fragment that had been stripped away, memory, identity, even the fragile threads of thought, seems irrelevant, meaningless in this place. The soul dissolves, not painfully but gently, a slow unraveling into infinity. For a moment, the journey feels complete. The gates are behind, the trials finished, and what remains is a merging with the eternal fabric that holds all things. Yet this peace does not last. The field begins to vibrate, subtle at first, then stronger. Waves ripple outward, bending perception like water disturbed by an unseen stone. In the distance, though distance should not exist, forms emerge. They are vast, titanic, built of patterns rather than substance. Spirals of stars folding into themselves, wheels of fire turning endlessly, trees of light whose roots dig into eternity. These are not gods as mortals imagine them, nor guardians nor judges. They are principles, forces that embody creation and destruction, the raw mechanics of existence itself. The soul floats among them, insignificant in their presence. Yet strangely, they take notice. The spirals slow, the wheels turn to face inward, the trees bend their branches of fire. Awareness settles upon the traveler like the gaze of 1,000 suns. There is no malice here, but the weight of observation is unbearable. To be seen by such forces is to risk disintegration, for they perceive not shape or memory, but the very thread of being. Visions erupt without warning. The soul sees the birth of stars, fire bursting from the void. It sees oceans boiling, mountains rising, cities of stone crumbling into dust. It sees life crawling from the deep, worshipping, killing, building, dreaming, failing. Every moment of existence plays out at once, past, present, and future, woven into an incomprehensible tapestry. To witness it is to feel madness creeping inward, for no mind, mortal or divine, was meant to contain the whole of eternity. But the soul does not shatter. It endures, trembling, stretched to the edge of breaking, yet refusing to collapse. The forces watch, and something shifts. A path opens through the field of patterns, a narrow thread of shadow stretching into the endless light. The soul follows, not by choice but by inevitability, drawn along the current that now flows with unstoppable gravity. The thread leads downward, though down has no meaning here, into a place where the light dims. Shadows bloom, at first faint, then thicker, until the brilliance fades into a gray twilight. The sea of infinity gives way to a strange landscape, a desert of glass shards stretching as far as perception can reach. Each shard reflects not the world, but memories, millions of them flashing across their surfaces in chaotic disorder. Some are fragments of the traveler's own past, others alien, belonging to countless souls that came before. The desert hums with their presence, alive with echoes of every journey that has ever crossed the gates. This is no longer trial, no longer judgment, it is aftermath. The 12th gate has delivered the traveler into a realm where memory and eternity intermingle, a place of remnants, where the echoes of all who endured still linger, and in the distance, at the farthest edge of the desert of shards, something glows faintly. Not a gate, not a corridor, but a flame suspended in the twilight, fragile yet unyielding, like a promise of something more. The desert of glass stretches endlessly, its shards jutting upward at impossible angles, catching faint glimmers of the gray twilight above. Each shard vibrates softly, emitting tones that shift with every movement of the traveler. The sound is not melody, not harmony, but a constant stream of broken notes, as if every shard carries a memory too heavy to remain silent. The air is sharp, filled with fragments of reflection. To pass through is to be surrounded by echoes of countless lives. As the soul drifts among the shards, visions erupt across their surfaces. A farmer bending to the earth beneath a rising sunday, a soldier falling on a battlefield drenched in rain, a mother whispering lullabies beside a cradle. Each shard holds a fragment of existence, a moment stolen from time. Some are beautiful, others unbearable. Together they form a tapestry so vast it overwhelms comprehension. The traveler feels these memories pressing inward, as though the desert demands acknowledgement of all who came before. The danger here is not violence but weight. Each vision tempts the soul to linger, to become absorbed in the endless stream of other lives. Every shard offers a story, a window into joys and sorrows once real, now suspended forever. To surrender to them is to forget the flame in the distance, to dissolve into a museum of echoes. The soul moves carefully, refusing to cling, though the temptation grows with every step. The ground shifts beneath the traveler's path. Shards rise and fall, forming ridges and valleys that reshape the desert without warning. Some shards stretch skyward like towers, their surfaces glowing with light too bright to behold. Others sink into the sand, dragging with them the visions they carried. The entire desert is alive, restless, reshaping itself around the traveler's presence. Far ahead, the faint flame burns steadily. It does not flicker, does not waver, though the desert tries to bury it in illusions. As the traveler advances, the shards grow larger, their surfaces clearer, and the visions more personal. Faces appear, some familiar, some long forgotten fragments of the soul's own path reflected back like broken mirrors. Childhood laughter, silent grief, forgotten triumphs and small failures. These memories sting sharper than any others because they belong not to strangers but to the self. The traveler wavers. The weight of recognition is heavier than anonymity. Each shard demands acknowledgement, and with every vision comes the risk of being trapped within memory's grasp. But the flame ahead is constant, unwavering. The traveler focuses on it, letting the shards fracture and fade, allowing the desert's voices to pass without answer. Slowly, the path clears, as though the desert itself acknowledges the refusal to yield. At last, the traveler reaches the base of the flame. Suspended above the desert, it burns without fuel, a slender column of gold and white fire. Its light is gentle, yet absolute, piercing the twilight with a clarity unlike anything seen since the beginning of the journey. The flame hums softly, not with sound but with resonance, vibrating through every fragment of the soul. It is not a barrier, not a trial, but an offering. To step closer is to feel warmth for the first time in this endless passage. The flame does not strip away, does not dissolve. Instead, it restores. For every layer lost in the gates, the flame offers renewal, not memory, not identity, but essence. A reminder that survival is not clinging to the fragments of the past, but embracing the continuity of being. The desert quiets. The shards fall still, their visions dimming into silence. The flame grows brighter, enveloping the traveler in its glow. The gray twilight begins to recede, replaced by a horizon of faint colors, blue, gold, and deep violet, emerging like dawn breaking after eternal night. The desert remains behind, but ahead lies something new, something untouched by trial. The soul steps forward, and the flame widens into a path of light stretching beyond the horizon. The end of the journey feels near, yet what lies beyond remains hidden, veiled by the brilliance of the flame. The path of flame stretches forward, steady and unwavering, a bridge across the last horizon. Its glow is neither harsh nor blinding but steady, as though it was always meant to be followed. The soul moves along it, weightless, each step dissolving the remnants of the gray desert behind. Ahead, the horizon curves upward, folding into itself until the path appears to ascend into infinity. The air here is different. It is no longer heavy, no longer suffused with judgment or silence. Instead, it carries a resonance, gentle, vast, and unending. The sound is not music, but it feels like melody, tones rising and falling, layered endlessly, as if every fragment of existence has been woven into a single harmony. The soul drifts deeper, letting the resonance fill it until the very idea of separation begins to dissolve. As the path climbs, visions begin to shimmer faintly within the flame. Unlike the illusions of the earlier gates, these visions do not tempt or deceive. They are glimpses, fleeting but profound, a field of endless stars blooming like flowers in the dark, a river of pure light flowing upward into skies no eye has ever seen, shapes of beings vast and radiant, not gods, not mortals, but something between creatures of resonance, guardians of eternity. They do not watch the traveler, for they have no need. The journey itself has already been seen, already known. The flame narrows, becoming less of a path and more of a single point. Its brilliance grows, folding the horizon into itself until the entire plane of light contracts into a singularity of radiance. The traveler stands before it, though standing is no longer accurate. The soul is drawn closer, its edges unraveling, not in destruction, but in union. This is the final truth. The journey was never about reaching a destination. The gates did not guard treasure, nor throne, nor secret realm. They stripped away everything that could not endure, until only essence remained. The flame, now within reach, is not an ending but a mirror. It reveals what the soul has become, not the fragmented wanderer that first stepped into the afterlife, but a presence reshaped by trial, sharpened by dissolution, and purified by surrender. The flame opens, not with sound, not with motion, but with expansion. Its light stretches outward in all directions, swallowing horizon and memory alike. The soul steps forward, or perhaps it simply yields, and the flame consumes it. Yet there is no fear, no pain, only transformation. The self dissolves, but not into nothingness. It becomes part of the resonance, woven into the harmony that has always existed. The roar of storms, the silence of voids, the judgment of stone, the whispers of memory, each fragment is now a note within the greater symphony. The soul is no longer separate, no longer fragile. It is endless, part of the fabric that breathes existence into being. The flame closes behind, leaving no path, no desert, no gate. The journey has ended, yet in truth, it has only begun again, elsewhere, in forms that cannot be named. The 12 gates are passed, the final threshold crossed. The traveler is gone, and yet more present than ever, scattered across eternity, like sparks of fire drifting into the dark. And somewhere, in a world of sand and river, beneath a sky that mortals still see, a whisper lingers unheard, unspoken but eternal. It is the echo of the journey, a memory that shapes the living even as it fades into the endless silence of the afterlife.